Hi everyone, Bernard here with the Citizen vlog, and it's part 8 of the history of Manchester City, and we're up to 1954-55 season. So we just finished the 1953-54 season with the last one, and because we're getting up to the modern days and we're going to get up to these days where they may have a few programmes from the late 50s and 60s, we're going to do 5 seasons in each part rather than 10 seasons, because we might have a bit more personal memories, obviously, to add to the actual general information I give you on these history blogs. So please, if you enjoy these, please push that up, subscribe on, push that bell notification so you know these little vlogs and specials on City are coming out. Like City Pass, obviously a lot of City Pass out there at the moment, City quizzes, moments in time, etc, etc. So anyway, this is part 8 from 1954-55 to the 1958-59 season. And obviously the end of the 59 season, I was in my I was not quite born. I was born in July 1959, so I was well on my way. I was a couple of months away, wasn't I? A couple of 2 or 3 months away from entering the world and being a City fan. But that's what we'll go up to today, which includes a couple of trips to Wembley, doesn't it, as well, in the mid to late 50s. Right, let's go on. Let's have a talk about this. 1954-55. Right, we saw the birth of the Revy plan this season. Trainer and coach Fred Tilson developed this in the reserve team games, and there's a piece in the programme. I'll show you these things as we go through them. Obviously this is from Gary James in the City programme, who was talking about the Revy plan. He's actually got pictures of Don Revy and Ken Barnes, two of the obviously key people in the Revy plan. But he just goes on to say the Revy plan did not simply involve 1 or 2 players, it was a whole team strategy. Even Bert Charlton was expected to play his part by making long, accurate throws to Revy. A bit like modern day Edison, isn't it? That long things that get out of the box. Who would quickly provide a short pass to Barnes. Revy would move forward with Barnes holding the ball while his colleague moved into position. Then Barnes would push the ball forward down the touchline for Revy to latch onto. By this point the opposition would already be confused. With Revy unmarked, he would be able to head for goal in relative freedom. It sounds incredibly simple, but yet it worked. The deep line roll really did confuse the opposition. Few teams could cope facing it. Yeah, because it was a very basic formations in those days. So if you're having your number 9, you're having your false 9s and all this sort of thing, I can imagine it gets very, very confusing. And I mean, it did have great effects for the first team. I think the first time they tried it, I think the City got hammered, so it wasn't great. We got absolutely beat. But you know, we tried it against the fantastic. You had the Busby Babes, and you had Sir Matt Busby's United, called the Busby Babes. And we actually, obviously, a game against United at Main Road where City they only just about won 3-2. Against United with a crowd of 54,000. But just one of the journalists writing wrote, in the Main Road derby on 25th September, United were defeated 3-2. City have staked their all on pure football, and they are proving that football pays. What is more, by one of those delicious strokes of irony which play around the uncertainties of sport, the City's forwards helped themselves to 3 goals and narrowly missed scoring as many more, without taking into account hot claims for an odd penalty or so against the defence, the 3 least masterful members of which was to be chosen later in the day as England's bulwark against Ireland. So obviously commenting about the defence of United there, but obviously we'd actually beat United 3-2. So this, for the first time this season, 1954-55, saw City becoming to look a bit like a top side. I mean, we'd struggled a bit since the war years, hadn't we? And we struggled crowd-wise as well. We'd lost supporters, as we'd already talked about. We'd actually finished 7th in the 1954-55 season, but we're only 2 points behind the runners-up Wolves. So it's a really big improvement on previous seasons. And that even included, had the Main Road victory against United. We beat United 5-0 at Old Trafford. We beat the Busby Babes, the legends, the Busby Babes, 5-0 at Old Trafford the same season. So we did really well. The crowds that year were 30. The average was 35,217. You compare that to United, which was 35,960. So again, we closed the gap. We were very close. As you know, pre-war, we'd really, our crowds were a lot higher than United most of the time. Liverpool were getting 36,000. So they're very similar, all within 1,000 fans were the average crowds of those 3 teams, City, United and Liverpool. And obviously, it was known also 54-55 was for a very good cup run. It was we actually beat United again, so we'd actually beat them 3 times that season in that cup run, 2-0. We actually made a semi-final against Sunderland at Villa Park, and I've got some images from this Hall of Fame book, the official Manchester City Hall of Fame book, and it's obviously an image of Roy Clark scoring with a diving header. Look how muddy the pitch is there. So that was the semi-final that year. We got to the semi-final and we won 1-0 with a Roy Clark goal. He actually got injured, Roy Clark, in the game, and he was a bit worried that he wouldn't be able to make the final, but he actually recovered. So by the last game before the FA Cup final that we'll play against Newcastle, he actually recovered, but he got injured again in that game. So Roy Clark, even though one of his best games ever was that semi-final against Sunderland with a 1-0 win for the 1954-55 semi-final, he actually couldn't play in the final, and so he ended up with a game against Newcastle. It wasn't just Roy Clark, there was a few other injuries as well to key players before the final, and this was Bert Trautmann's the first German to play in a cup final, of course, at that time. But City struggled. We were 1-0 down after 45 seconds, and then after 20 minutes our injury hit squad. I mean, Jimmy Meadows got a cruciate ligament injury, so we had to play for 70 minutes with 10 men. So even allowing for that, even though we were 1-0 down after 45 seconds, we did go in at half time 1-1, and obviously that was wonderful, but obviously we couldn't hold out. We ended up losing the final there 3-1. I think I've got an image of Jimmy Meadows as well. There's Jimmy Meadows, who suffered the cruciate in the final. So and if you look at the headlines as well in the paper, this big journal book, this Manchester City a History. So you've got obviously talking about Newcastle, record goal and cup for United. But it did comment on the City's gallant 10 never gave up. So it was a very, very brave performance, even though we lost 3-2, and obviously the Geordies there and with the cup. Not great for us, is it? Oh, we did get our revenge back in 1976, didn't we? A few years later, which no doubt we'll talk about. So yeah, it was a very disappointing. The team that day was Trautmann, Meadows, Little Barnes, Ewing, Paul, Spurdle, Hayes, Revie, Johnston and Fagan. And obviously I think it was Roy Paul was actually quoted as saying that we would be back next year, which we'll see, won't we? But there you go. And and also that year, Don Revie won the Sports Writers Player of the Year award. So I've just got an image of that in there from the match programme, getting it with his award there. So Don Revie won that. So, as I said, not a bad performance in the league, was it? And we came so close in the cup. That was 1954-55. On to 55-56. Obviously, we might have something to look forward to in this one. But what happened with this Revie plan? I mean, Bobby Johnson was a recent addition to the squad, but great player, Bobby Johnson. But he did put Revie's nose out of joint a little bit. So there's a bit of a fallout with the manager McDowell about this Bobby Johnson, and obviously was favoured. But despite all the off-field problems, City finished quite well. We finished fourth in the league with an average crowd of 32,198. But obviously it was a cup where we would get our glory, wasn't it? And it was a 70,000 crowd at Main Road against Liverpool, and then City won a replay at Anfield. Believe that? We actually won a replay. We won at Anfield. We won at Anfield in a replay. We had 76,000 against Everton in the quarter-final at Main Road. Another win in a semi-final versus Spurs, which was a 1-0 win. And there's a little paper in this paper, obviously the tale of two cities. So obviously Birmingham made the final as well as City. And there's a piece there, one Spurs blunder followed the other. So obviously we beat Spurs 1-0. So two reckless, ridiculous suicide blunders tell the story of Manchester City's second post-war passport to a Wembley Cup final. So obviously Tottenham did us a few favours. Nice to be, again they'd get their revenge on us though, wouldn't they? That's the only thing. In 1956. I mean it was a final, wasn't it? That was it. Sorry, it was a final where Bert Trautmann would obviously be called the Bert Trautmann final, I wanted. But a week before the final, he actually won. Like Revie had won the Players Sports Writers Player of the Year. There you go. Mr. Trautmann that was before the FA Cup final, so it wasn't because of his broken neck. He actually won that for his performances for City. So you know, it wasn't just feeling sorry for him. That was a week before he won the Sports Writers Player of the Year. So City wore that famous maroon colour as well, and we beat Birmingham. Actually, we played Birmingham. Birmingham were the actual firm favourites to win that. City were not the favourites at all. And that, again, is some images which you've seen, loads of these images obviously, but again from the paper there of the cup final. And there's the famous one obviously from this other booklet I've got here, which is the 125 years we got from City, obviously, of Roy Paul holding the cup aloft, 1956. On Don Revie, Ken Barnes next to him there. So yeah, it was actually the team was Troutman, Levers, Little, Barnes, Ewing, Paul, Johnson, Hayes, Revie, Dyson, Clark. So a few changes to one or two changes to last year's, because it was a bit of a more fuller team. Even though there were problems in the dressing room even before that, where I think people were carrying injuries, etc., etc. So, and this is sort of emphasised in this headline: drama and panic in the dressing room, because people were, you know, had wounds, and obviously had Bert Troutman had a broken neck by the end of the game, but obviously other players were carrying knocks, etc. But City's old Crocs, as he said in that headline there, won the cup, and it was the first time that the FA Cup had been broadcast by both the BBC and the ITV, and Granada, actually, this was their very, very first live outside broadcast for the 1956 FA Cup final. So that was a good season, wasn't it? At the end of the day, two losers at Wembley the season before, winners at Wembley this season. So we went on to 1956-57. I've got a great image of the squad actually, and the only person missing from the squad, from the 1956-57 squad, is Bert Troutman, as you'd expect, because he actually missed 4 months of the following season because of obviously the injury to his neck. So that's the team in the 1956-57 team. Revie still disgruntled, still a bit fed up. I mean, even though he's got his cut with his cup, he's still not happy. He actually joined Sunderland in the November of 1956 for 24,000, which wasn't a bad fee. In October, yeah, because what had happened in not only did City win the FA Cup, United had won the league the same year. So the Charity Shield, Charity Shield was between City and United, and 30,000 crowd, which wasn't bad for a friendly game at Main Road. And United with Dennis Viollet. Viollet scored there, the only goal of the game. So unfortunately, I think our first and perhaps only Charity Shield game up till then, obviously till recently against United, we lost that unfortunately. But in the league, we absolutely struggled. We had a poor season. We finished 18th, which was okay. That was 2 places above relegation. There was it was 22 teams, so it was about 3 places above relegation, but we only finished 18th. Newcastle knocked us out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round after a replay at Main Road, where City were actually 3-0 up at one point, and we were 4-3 up. We actually lost the game 5-4. And the crowd average for the season, a little bit dropped, so it dropped to 30,005. So it dropped a little bit even the season after, because we'd performed so badly in the league, which took us to the 57-58 season. During the closed season, there was the Kippax was roofed, so it meant there was now 50,000 covered accommodation now for 50,000 fans. Roy Paul, the guy lifting the trophy before, he joined Worcester as a player manager. I don't think they were too high up the leagues then, but I don't think they are now. They're still going, I'm not too sure. And it was mainly noticeable for how many goals were scored in City's games in the 1957-58 season. There was over 204 goals scored, 104 we scored and 100 against. That was in 42 league games, and an average of 4.86 goals per match. One game, Ken Barnes, actually, I think this was the first time it's ever been done. I'm not sure if it's been done since. It may have been. Ken Barnes converted 3 penalties in a 6-2 win over Everton, so he actually had 3 penalties. But the 57-58 season was going to be known for something else, wasn't it? It was going to be the football world was rocked by the Munich air crash, including, obviously, we lost the ex-City keeper, Frank Swift, now a journalist, and there's a great image of Frank Swift. there. Obviously, that's a fantastic image of when he was playing for City. But yeah, the air crash obviously affected the United team coming at Munich airport, obviously. And a lot at the time, obviously, many of the City and United players were friends. I mean, they mixed together. The fans mixed together. Some of the fans went to both games, etc., etc. So it was a sad time. I'm not going to go into great deals on this. It's obviously this is a City vlog, but obviously it shocked the City as a whole. It shocked football. It shocked the football world as a whole. And UEFA actually offered City United's place in the European Cup, but obviously City, amongst other clubs, obviously just would prefer to actually help United by giving players or lending players or this sort of thing. So City were actually offered the chance to play and take United's place in the European Cup, but they refused to do that. So the season sort of carried on as it would do, but it did finish with the sort of mixed feelings, and City actually finished 5th, so they did well in the league. But to say the football became like it is now at the moment, I'm recording this during the COVID crisis, becomes pretty secondary to certain things, doesn't it? City's crowds a little bit up on last year, 32,765. Again, not a great run. The FA Cup holders, we were knocked out in the third round, which obviously was the first round. Basically, we lost 5-1 at West Bromwich Albion, so we didn't do too well. So it took us to the 1958-59 season, which is the last one we're going to look at today. Again, we've got a little squad pick before that. Actually, you could see Bert Sharp in this one at the back on there for it now. So he's obviously back, but obviously this is the sort of squad before the season. So obviously there's still a bit of a fallout from the disaster from the year before. United were still, obviously players were being lent to United. United were trying to rebuild, obviously. Arthur Walmsley, a journalist from the Manchester Evening Chronicle, described this for City as a season of consistent mediocrity. So that just about says it all. Despite Bobby Johnston leading the line again, still very well, and Troutman playing brilliantly. Troutman was saving shots after shot, was doing really well for City. Despite this, after 29 games, City were 18th. And actually, if you look at this this programme, which is 27th December 1958, so it's literally halfway through the season. There's actually a league table in it, which shows City struggling near the bottom. Exactly 21 games played, so they were 18th by that time. But obviously, it was so close at the bottom of the table. I mean, the City were on 18 points, but obviously the bottom team, Aston Villa, were just on 16. So if you look at that was exactly halfway through the season. Say by the 29th game, we're still struggling in that bottom of the table there, near the bottom of the table. So it came down to the last game. It came down where one team had already been relegated. So it's between Villa and City as to who was to go down. And as happened before, City's goal difference, which it wasn't goals against then, the goal difference was 0.648 and Villa's was 0.662. So they had a slightly better goal difference. Manager for Aston Villa, a certain Joe Mercer, that you might remember, was their manager at the time. And Aston Villa's game kicked off 15 minutes before City's, which was, so at least City would know, presumably, depending how quick they are, based on what we've seen in recent times, whether we got to, obviously, I believe the communication was far better back in the 1950s than it was in the 80s and 90s, etc. So City's game, City were winning 3-1. City did well. I think they were 3-1 up with about 25 minutes left. But sadly, Villa were actually winning 1-0. But about 17 minutes before City's game ended, the cheer went up around the crowd because West Bromwich Albion, who'd been playing Aston Villa, had actually equalised with about 2 or 3 minutes to go. Joe Mercer had actually left the ground to go to a banquet, to go to an awards banquet. So he didn't even see the goal, Joe Mercer, Aston Villa's manager. But obviously, Aston Villa ended up drawing 1-1. So obviously, when that game, obviously City knew they were up, they were 3-1, they were comfortable, and the crowd went wild at Main Road because we'd actually survived. So that was interesting. But that was the season where Bobby Johnson didn't play so many games, and it looks as though his time at City was coming to an end. And City had their eyes, but we'll talk about this again. City had the eyes on a new striker, a young striker from Huddersfield, a certain Dennis Law, but obviously it would take a bit of cash to pry him away from Huddersfield. And obviously Bobby Johnson, as I said, he didn't play so many games this season, even though when he did play, he played exceptionally well, but he would actually leave in September. And Law would Law would be coming in to replace him, but not just quite yet, because as I said, it would Huddersfield will want a few quid. The FA Cup third round, City unfortunately went out to Grimsby Town. I think there's a comment on here about the selling out the ticket allocation for Grimsby. January always adds, this is done December, January always adds a fillip to the long season as the cup programme gets underway. Cup fever has always got a firm grip on City fans, and the club's allocation of tickets for the Grimsby tie went very quickly. Many more supporters have made arrangements to go to Grimsby and pay at the gate. So obviously, even with the big following, we actually went out on a replay to Grimsby Town. So again, we didn't last very long. Top scorer for that season, a certain Colin Barlow, who we do know from Mr. Francis Lee's days, don't we? And the crowd average was 32,568. So again, just about similar to 1957-58, but obviously, again, we struggled, hadn't we? Another season of struggle. So 1958, what would 59-60 hold? Well, obviously a certain Bernard Deneen would have suddenly appeared in July 1959. So I wasn't there that first season, but join me next time for part 9 when we'll have a look at the next 5 seasons from 59-60 onwards. So that should be quite interesting, and perhaps that Mr. Dennis Law will turn up for us as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Please, for all the latest on City, just follow me on Twitter as well. I retweet things and put things there out on City at Charles Deneen, spelt DINNWN, or at nostalgia_movie. That's another account I have. And if you're into movies and TV dramas, please check the playlist. I've got, obviously I do vlogs on film and movie reviews and information on what's coming out, etc. So if you like that sort of thing. And I'm on Facebook at Bernard Deneen with links to moviegamenostalgia.com, my little website for old and rare DVDs, movie posters from the 1990s and 2000s, and some board games on there as well. So if you find time to have a look on moviegamenostalgia.com, that'll be great. And obviously next time we'll be having a look at some more of these, aren't we? That's a Blackpool one from November 1958. Good team, Blackpool then. Obviously the City one there. Bit of colour. 2-spot colour, isn't it? That's still colour, isn't it? I know it's not perfect, but a bit more of these will come into being with the next history of Manchester City. Anyway, thanks for joining. Let me know in the comments what you think. Any special memories you've got if you're older, slightly older than me, and you remember some of the late 50s, and perhaps you were at the cup finals. You know, even I couldn't manage that. My first cup final wasn't until 1974, so still a long way to go yet. Anyway, thanks for watching. What we're going to do the rest of the day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your family. Let's all look after each other. And until we meet again, this is Bernard saying goodbye for now. Thanks for watching.